We're here today to discuss some future marketing opportunities in light of the fact that we're going to be at YMS next week, and we're going to be hosting Indo will be hosting a panel around that. So we thought we would kind of discuss a few opportunities and kick it off. So, go on. What was first?
One of the first topics of future marketing opportunities we were discussing was building communities through technology, and what does that look like? Obviously, Facebook and social has become very much a sort of pay-to-play environment. Many people sort of believe, and with the algorithms changing so much, it's how do brands sort of keep up with this space? And one of the things that we noticed quite a lot was this idea of the sort of back to the walled garden, and how brands are sort of developing their own kind of ecosystems and communities using like proximity tech. It was one of the main ones, like Nike. Where did it start from your opinion?
I mean, the FuelBand, was a big one that I think kind of had that closed community and a really engaged community, and also using gamification as well as like a tool to kind of engage that community and get more out of it. And then recently we've seen Nike also use NFC in the basketball shirts as well. But I think having that community away from a social environment like Facebook that you can actually control and that you can actually hone is a really, really powerful.
I think I want to go back to that. Nike one was such a visionary and crazy thing to do. Even for people who don't know, they basically put an NFC chip in every single NBA jersey that they sell. And the idea is that, let's say I bought like an LA Lakers jersey, I would register my jersey and I would then be part of like a closed community of people who also follow that team. So again, quite a forward-thinking approach. And shortly after, Adidas did something kind of similar for the World Cup footballs. They also integrated NFC chips into all the footballs. So very interesting trend to see how brands are using this to sort of, technology to almost build their own communities away from traditional social platforms.
Yeah, and the beauty of it as well is that you can learn so much about your community by doing that. So you can control the environment, you can control what data you get from them. So if you want to actually, put out some content that helps you kind of segment your audience more, or put out some content that helps you learn more about your audience, you're going to get a lot more data from that environment, like the FuelBand. I'm sure Nike, as a result of that, got so much data from their audience that they could actually use through their marketing or whatever it might be.
Yeah, it's very interesting because clearly, like you were saying earlier, like the sports market really set the pace in terms of this this technology. But we have actually, tell a lie, Malibu and Diageo have been integrating and exploring the role of NFC in their products, but I don't think it's the same as what this is. They were using it as a sort of tap to explore kind of functionality, whereas what Nike and Adidas are doing is really sort of like a community. And so again, very interesting.
I think you have to really look at like the function of the community as well. So sport's quite easy, you could say, because people are going to be playing sport a lot. Like the FuelBand, everyone's going to be running or whatever they're doing. They're using it on a daily basis, so that usage is at the heart of the community, which helps them to like engage a lot more. For an alcohol brand, it might be a bit more difficult of what is that kind of regular usage that someone's going to get out of it. It could link to music, for example, and you could have that as the driver to engage this community or create this community, whether it's artists sharing songs or whatever it might be. But I think that function has to be thought about what is going to be that core message, or what's that core kind of usage of the community. Otherwise people just won't really care,
and it becomes a gimmick, I guess, when people just start bringing it in for no reason.
Exactly.
That's interesting. So that was the first kind of point of what we were thinking was like future marketing opportunities is this use of technology, potential moving back to the sort of walled garden. And obviously that doesn't mean you're disconnected from Facebook or Instagram, but it's how does your sort of community engage in your environment? And Fitbit and FuelBand were really the sort of like key starting points. What would you say is the next opportunity that we were looking at?
We were talking about kind of going back to Facebook, but things like bots and the usage of that, and technologies that can help you to not only be more efficient with how you're communicating with your audience, but also learn more about your audience and even segment your audience in an efficient way. So bots, we were kind of mentioning, was a really good tool at being able to actually segment your audience and use it to serve content or different types of content.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. What we did recently with one of our clients, Bestival, we set up a bot and we are basically using it to learn more about which kind of artists our fan base was interested in. So we might say, you know, do you like MIA or do you prefer Plan B? And then from that, we can then start serving them different content.
Yeah.
And many people don't know why you'd use a bot. But one of the main reasons is that on Facebook, your reach naturally is just decreasing over time. But through a bot, you get a guaranteed impression. It will basically come up on someone's phone or someone as a notification. Now, there's a thin line between spam and actual, you know, being used in an effective way. But we've seen bots being used in the music industry, where an artist, for example, Dimitri Vegas, I think, he launched his merchandise through a bot, and within 5 minutes, he sold every single item without any media spend behind it.
Wow.
And that is, you know, it's a real sort of like indicator on how bots could sort of be used in this in like a really sort of futuristic way.
Yeah, I think it's the same as the kind of NSC thing we were talking about. It's all about application, isn't it? So I think it's obviously a bot has a certain function. It has a certain way of being able to kind of communicate, but it's how you use it. That's the kind of intelligent part of if you're using it like you were just saying in that kind of way. That's where it can kind of, you can see really amazing results.
Interesting. What was the next piece? I think music and culture was something that we were just thinking about in general, specifically on the music industry. What is the future marketing opportunity within there? And there's this huge trend of artists kind of becoming more independent, not really needing a record label, but then relying on brands potentially to help spur and fund their growth. I think we look at Stormzy as the best example of that partnership with Adidas and how that has really sort of pushed his career forward.
Or Skepta is, you know, an independent artist that hasn't kind of used a record label as well. It's quite interesting.
So again, and there's no like surefire answer to this, but I do believe, and I think we all generally think that brands have an interesting role in disrupting the music industry and almost potentially taking the place of record labels and some of the sort of roles that a record label could play.
Yeah, we saw. I think Adidas, they had a bit of a punt at it, and they did that. They had like a SoundCloud account. I think they released a song with Innovisions. I think it was like Frank Wiedemann. But I think there's an opportunity, obviously, for brands to have that role. I think we were kind of saying that a brand that actually creates art instead of just sponsoring a musician, but actually creates a track with them, a collaborative track. Apple being a great recent example with, you know, featuring FKA Twigs,
Anderson .Paak one, great.
Actually creating, you know, that asset that the brand kind of has a part of as well and authentically can kind of manage. I think you get so much more value from it. You know, Apple, as a result of that, they've kind of obviously have the association with the video, which is amazing, but they also have an actual song which technically they kind of own, which is quite an interesting partnership. And maybe there's a future within that.
One that we get quite excited about in terms of like just as a great example is that Nike, Tottenham and AJ Tracey.
Yeah.
So to announce the kit for Tottenham's kit, I think it was like part funded by Nike and Tottenham, and AJ Tracey created a track which was filled with sort of football sort of puns and ideas, and it was just, you know, that track I think it's got like over 1 million views now, and it's interesting because that's a piece of art, but it also serves as an advert in some ways. The video was obviously, you know, it was filled with the brand's logo, but that's a song that you won't be surprised to go out on a Friday night and hear that played and people going absolutely crazy about it. But like I said, that's funded by a brand.
Yeah, and I think it's using the artists in the right way, using them for what they're great at, what their skills are. I'm not trying to force something by getting maybe an artist to feature in a really horrible advert. You know, I always use that. What was it? That band that are on
the Microsoft one.
Yeah, something like that. It was Clean Bandit, I think.
Oh yeah, that was Microsoft, I think.
Was it? Yeah, was it? And it was just such a bad example of, they're a big artist and they're just trying to shoehorn them into this advert. They're clearly not comfortable in front of camera in that way, and it was just one really bad example of how not to use musicians in your content, and why not actually get them to actually create a song or use them for what they're good at. And it's going to kind of resonate a lot more.
Yeah, it definitely goes back to that idea of, you know, creating art, not ads. Like one of the things we were saying is like people skip ads, but they're not going to skip something that they believe in or they find interesting, like a piece of art. This jumps to an interesting kind of segue in a sense of ethics, and you know, we're talking a lot about the next generation. Ethical marketing has kind of been this kind of almost like a trending topic for many people. Do you think that plays a role in future marketing strategies and opportunities, or do you think it's very much a separate budget and the way a brand will operate?
I think that, yeah, as you said, I think more and more young people, they have ethics at the heart of kind of what they want to do, and I think that they're more savvy to brands and brands' place within culture. And I think that brands, yeah, they definitely have not just a kind of responsibility, but they have an opportunity to actually do something good and actually have that at the heart of what they're doing. And I think that the more and more we're seeing brands that are doing something that has an ethical mission behind it, and it's being received so much more authentically, first of all, and also more positively, because people genuinely are like, well, you're trying to actually do something good. So I think that even from a kind of commercial perspective, it can actually be beneficial as well as from an ethical. So I think that's when brands really will kind of perk up, is if you can actually make that link between having an ethical campaign will actually be more commercially viable as well. That's when probably more people will latch onto it. But I guess it's it's kind of that really difficult ROI measurement of like, if you change someone's life, how do you measure that as a success for the brand in a kind of really tangible way that you can kind of put in a report, for example. That's that's kind of the difficult part.
It's an interesting one. So final kind of point that we were thinking about was immersive experiences and the sort of rise of brands. Obviously experiential has been a really important growing trend over the last few years, and brands kind of delivering a more engaging experience that really gets the message across and communicates what they're trying to deliver. What were your thoughts on immersive experiences? Do you feel like that there's a really exciting opportunity within that?
Definitely, yeah. I think as we were saying with the NFC kind of technology and using that strategy to kind of create a community, I think that anything that can use technology to bring an experience that is going to engage somebody and that is going to have that kind of gamification element within it, I think it's obviously going to it's going to empower somebody more, and they're actually going to have a positive experience of the brand as a result of that. So
I think advertising generally, like, you want to skip it. You're exposed to so many adverts every single day, and I think this rise of experiential and more specifically like immersive experiential is kind of, I feel like, kind of the future and what people are demanding a little bit more. They don't want to be passive viewers in your brand message. They almost want to kind of have a role to play in it in some way. Then there's so many examples, but the one that I'm really excited about was the Disney Star Wars Secrets of the Empire concept, which it's so crazy. Innovative, and it's almost like this. It's what many people thought virtual reality would be, but there's tons of examples of brands bringing this sort of like immersive concept. And giving you a chance to almost like completely get absorbed into the environment.
Well, it's an experience, isn't it? It's something that's kind of real, and it's beyond, as you said, people want to skip ads. They don't want to see an ad, but if you give them an experience that they actually benefit from and that they actually can engage with in a kind of something that's beneficial to them, then that's going to give them a completely different viewpoint on the brand. So
nice.
And I was using Deliveroo as an example. It was a very simple kind of live stream they did around Deal or No Deal, and you kind of were able to live bet on what box was going to open, and I think you won like a £10 voucher. But the amount of engagement that was streaming down as a result, I think it just shows you that simple kind of gamification element to the content really helps.
Really strong, yeah. Nice. I'm sure there's like probably tons of other areas that could be that we could discuss as future marketing opportunities. These were just some quick like off the cuff concepts, but we're going to be at YMS next week.
We will.
So we have a stand there as well, and we're doing a panel called the CEO debate. So hopefully catch you there.
Yep, cool.